Welcome back to another edition of the All Beef No Filler podcast. I'm your host, Pascal Paul, Director of Scouting with Prep Baseball Nebraska, joined with Parker Hageman, our Director of Social Media, Ops, and everything else behind the scenes and important for the Upper Midwest states. We're here talking a little bit of the 2027 rankings. We just posted them, a couple weeks ago. Thought we'd come in, get a little quick podcast, break them down. As you can see, I'm substitute teaching on my off time. So this whiteboard, we're going to get our notes going and have everything on the board for you guys.
I was going to say, Pascal, it says quote of the day. Do you actually have a quote of the day that you want to?
The kids were complaining there was no quote of the day. So we're next to Christmas. I almost threw one up there for the last period, but I don't know if I have anything that'll tickle their fancy today.
Do you have any ball guy quotes of like when you come in and talk to the players, or you have to do that scrum before the game or something like that? Did you ever have a go-to phrase?
No, I was never important enough on any staff to be honored enough to be the one that gets to talk during those. Low man on the totem pole usually sits in the corner and makes sure that everyone else's job's done.
Keep listening to Coach. Look at Coach. Right, that kind of thing. You're that guy. I like it.
Man, I am excited to talk about the 27s, though. This class, extremely talented. Fresh off the super sophomore games, our first junior future games team as well for this region. So they've got the privilege of coming through the pike doing all the fun stuff that everyone talks about as far as a national.
I mean, like you've said it, the first junior future game team from Nebraska, like from that year and watching the talent that was on the field, like you got arms, you got athletes, you got bats, you got a little bit of everything mixed in. But focus on the top 10 here. What is the premier part of this group right now?
Everyone's a shortstop in the 2027 rankings, I feel like, and not in a bad way. All of them, obviously at the top with Bubba Day, two-way player. He's been up to 90. Can play all over the field, I think. Right now, plays primarily on the infield. Has a teammate in Easton Elam that's 6. That's also a shortstop. So, in my opinion, I think either one of those guys is going to be the scut shortstop. And the other one will fall where he needs to. But from him, Kalai Larson is at 3, who's a shortstop right-handed pitcher that got real innings on varsity. Andrew Jackson is a shortstop right-handed pitcher that is up to 90. Marcus Chandler is probably more of a second baseman, third baseman, but also up to 90 this offseason. Had probably one of the best freshman campaigns in the spring that I've ever seen. Absolutely dominated on both sides. 3 pitches for strikes on the mound. He was 1 or 2 hole for Westside's lineup pretty much all year. Absolute animal last spring. Easton Elam, shortstop, right-handed pitcher. Then we have Griffin Minderman, who's just a shortstop, and that pretty much rounds it out. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the top 10 are shortstops. You can go down, and I believe the next 2 of the next 3 are Chase Neneman and Blake McAndrews, who are also shortstops and on the mound. So this class is loaded with shortstops and high-end ones too. It's going to be interesting to develop as these kids go through the next 3-4 years of high school and really see who makes jumps and gets better and really, puts the hammer down with the development in the offseason.
Yeah, like you're saying, I mean, like the premier athletes in this class is pretty impressive. And you started at the top with Bubba Day. Just real quick, give me your impression of him in game at the super sophomores. Like you saw him on the mound, he was at 90. You saw him at the plate. What's your takeaway of it?
I think one of the biggest things was seeing him at the junior future games and then coming him back at the super sophomore games. The junior future games, I felt like he might have been a little overwhelmed coming in from Kearney, Nebraska. Obviously a coach's son, has a lot of experience, but I don't think the experience at that level with all the coaches and all the different players and everyone's got a state logo on their jersey. It's a different animal. And I thought him coming into the super sophomores, you saw a calm, cool, collected, knew what he was, knew how to be successful, and went out and dominated. I think he is the premier player in the state. I think his athleticism on both sides of the ball is going to be tough to match. With his range, his body, his athleticism, there's just a lot to like and project about Bubba while also seeing a lot of production right now.
We made a post where it was like the top uncommitteds position player and then pitchers not long ago, and your note was, "Hey, Bubba Day is the top guy on either the position or the pitching side. Like he's
He very well
legit."
could be. I think no doubt he's the number one arm. There's probably some arguments there for position player wise, but he's in the argument for the top arm and the top position player in the state, no doubt. And you're not going to find too many people that are going to argue against that, I don't think.
Are there any other bats or position players that jumped out at you, like some guys that you're like, hey, this is a guy to keep an eye on?
Well, we talked about Marcus, obviously. His in-game production as a freshman is second to none. He might not wow you on the page with the numbers or, the 60 or his exit velo, but that dude produces in the game. And when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, you try to win baseball games. That's the name of the game. The other one, and he didn't come to the super sophomores. He had some travel issues, but we saw him. We didn't see him all spring. He didn't come to the All-State event preseason last year, but we saw him at the ID event up to 90. Was someone that we didn't hear at all about. Andrew Jackson from Lincoln Southwest. Didn't know him beforehand. Physical kid. I think he was about 6 foot. Let me check his profile here. I think he was like 6 foot 195 when he came. 6'1", 195. So super physical. Ball really easily jumped out of his hand at 90. There's not too many kids that physical that are throwing 90 that we don't know about. So, and he comes to an ID event. It was extremely impressive. I'm really excited to see him again because it's the only time I've ever seen him. So seeing him a lot, he's going to be on varsity this year. Lincoln Southwest is going to be really talented. They're going to be young, but they're going to be hungry, and he should be a big part of that.
I mean, with multiple guys throwing 90 in this class already, I mean, you got to imagine, and they got another year before they're going to get college looks and visits and stuff like that. But like, this is a pretty good group to keep an eye on, right? I mean, I got to imagine there's going to be a lot of interest in the state based on, man, you've got multiple 90s.
It's I was talking to Rob. I think you were there too in that conversation about the future games team next year. And I know it's almost a year away or a little under, but man, based off the junior futures and the super sophomore talent for both Iowa and Nebraska, it's going to be a dogfight. And I'm excited to watch these kids compete for it all year. We get the experience of going to the spring league and seeing the Iowa kids too, and then I obviously get the experience of seeing the Nebraska kids all spring. So you could probably go 15, 20 deep, and I know this word kind of is a buzzword, but is deserving, of going. And like, there's going to be some kids that don't make that future games team that are incredibly, incredibly deserving to go. And it's going to be a tough decision for, us in the region. But, man, that team, I think, is going to have a lot of talent. Now, whether they go down there and perform, who knows. But the talent on paper for that Iowa and Nebraska team is going to be high, very high.
That's pretty good. Head down to Lake Point and just put on a show. That's the name of the game, really, when you break it down, right?
Yeah, hopefully we just write the lineup in and sit back, kick our feet up, and watch them do what they do. Pretty much like when Danny Wallace was down there and you just wrote him in and said, "Hey, just go play baseball."
Yep, you put the phone up, you let the magic get captured, and we get to post it on social media.
Yes.
Signed, sealed, delivered. But throughout this, this 2027s now, they've been, on the list for a couple of cycles of the rankings, right? You got some risers that have come up, a couple of names. What was it? Huxton Cat? Am I saying that right?
Huxton Cat. Yep. Strong kid. Was up to, I believe, a 7.12, or down to, I should say, a 7.12 60. A lot of strength in the body, especially in the lower half. I think it definitely projects for more down the line. I'm excited to see, like all these kids, I'm excited to see when they come out of the winter development. These rankings beforehand are kind of, in my opinion, they're great, obviously, but for most kids, the biggest development curve that they're going to have is during the winter. That's when they're not going to be able to focus on games. So these rankings are almost a preset to everything that is about to happen in that all-state event that we got coming up. And I think coming out of that event and seeing the rankings after that is going to be a big tell on what and how kids do during these winter months. I know I didn't speak a lot on Huxton, but that's what I think about. He's a strong kid that's a lot of projectability, and I think the winter months going to be very good for him. Same with another kid, Luke Wagner. He was up to 80 form. The left side really works. We haven't seen him since the All-State event, and as far as in-event stuff, but the arm really works. His over-top slot has a little bit of a down angle to his fastball. But again, another guy that could come out of winter workouts, and you see that left-handed fastball up to 86, 88, and you're looking at him a little bit different than you are when he's at 84.
You could never have enough left-handed pitching, I think, is what it comes down to at times. But no, you're absolutely right. We're in the upper Midwest, and like that, whether or not, of course, we're just talking about this before we got on. I'm in Minnesota. It's snowing about 8 inches, near 50 degrees. So yeah, you guys could be playing long toss down there and doing some outdoor stuff. But ultimately, we're not on the field like we are in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, or whatever, Texas throughout the winter. So I think it benefits the guys in the upper Midwest when they go into the gym, they go into the cages, they do get bigger, better, stronger. And then the first chance they get to show that off is right in front of you at Iowa Western at the preseason All-State.
It makes this class honestly a little bit unique because, when we talked about our 26s, we mentioned all the arms. And typically, in the Midwest states, you have the arms that rise to the top. It's easier to project that. It's a lot easier to see a 92, 94 guy dominating college than projecting an if a kid can hit or not. Whereas this class, like we talked about in the beginning, it's shortstops. And it's athletes, it's shortstops. Now they're young still, and they all have arms, and they could all still be pitchers, but they all also project as really good hitters, and the athleticism is there. So it'll be interesting to see this 27 class. Just as a normal Midwest class, typically you'd see more arms, and right now we see a lot more pitcher outfielder or position outfielder shortstops in that top 10.
Last question I'm going to ask of you here, but there's a couple of newcomers in the top 30. Do you want to give them a shout out since welcome them to the rankings?
Carter Woodson is one that we saw over in the Iowa fall tournaments. Up to 84, really, really liked his breaking ball. 74, 77, was able to spin it for strikes and swing and miss. It's probably a common theme, but I'm really excited to see what he does after the winter months. It's someone we saw in the fall. He hasn't been to an event yet, so we're hoping to get him to the All-State event. But someone who can spin a breaking ball 74, 77 at that age for strikes and swing and miss and control it, you got to believe that there's more in the tank. You got to believe that fastball velocity is coming, and you're going to really see him be able to probably throw upper eights with a low 80 slider. The next one would be Colton Kuhl. Came to a fall review and was up to 84. He did two-way, but he's more of an arm. He's a skinny, projectable body. The arm really works. Again, 84. Another one of those guys that in the mid-80s, what is going to happen over this winter break? Is it going to be a 84, 86, next spring, or are you still going to be in the 82, 84, 83 range? Big separation. And again, that is why we do the future games on this year, because it is such a development age. Are you going to separate yourself now into that top 10 to 15 guys? Or, are you still in that 20 to 40-ish range where we're still trying to figure out, you're still trying to develop, you're still trying to understand if you're a pitcher or a catcher, if you had that velo jump yet, that type of thing. The last thing on the 2027 class that I'll say is this is the first year for them that all the rule changes. They're going to go through this whole recruiting cycle, I would say, as the first class that hasn't gotten any committed. Last year, I think we only had one in Nebraska. The year before, I think we had 7 or 8 going into the future games. This year will be the first year Nebraska doesn't have any commits going into the future games. So it'll be interesting to see how these kids, not necessarily the kids, but how the process takes them through recruiting, whether it's the future games or the rule changes at Division I's for the 34 guys, or now with we just heard some JUCO rulings where junior colleges might get an extra 2 years at the 4-year school. So it'll be interesting to see where everything goes. Obviously, the spots at the Division I level are not easy, especially for position players in the Midwest. And we got a lot of good ones in the 27 class in Nebraska. So how kids start navigating that recruiting process, is junior college going to be a big more high on the radar because you don't have to use potentially any more years of eligibility. It'll just be interesting to see what this class does, how they do it with so many guys, I think, at the top. I mean, I could go down probably 20-ish guys, like I said earlier, that deserving of that future games, and we'll see how that recruiting process treats them throughout this next year.
Yeah, you'll have to fight Rob over those roster spots, but I think a lot of those guys have a case to be made that they should be a part of it.
Maybe we'll have to go into a cage, me and Rob, and just battle it out to see who gets it.
Absolutely, like chairs and
WWE style for sure.
Yeah, I like it. So since we're waiting on the holidays, and we'll release this around the holidays, somewhere in that general area of the holidays. Pascal, I got to know what your favorite holiday movie is.
Favorite holiday movie? A Christmas Story, without a doubt.
Is it the you'll shoot your eye out bit that you like the most?
I mean, it's just a family tradition. It's 24 hours of A Christmas Story on Christmas, and we own it. My brother actually owns a full version of the lamp, and he puts it in his window.
The leg.
The leg lamp. We got it for him. It absolutely drives his wife nuts, but he puts it up every year. Full version. It's great. So, Christmas Story, no doubt. That's the GOAT.
I just saw a post on Facebook or somewhere where it's like somebody has the full leg lamp as like a yard decorative thing.
That's
so
awesome.
It's now like a 15-footer in the front yard. So that's what you got to get your brother for.
That is life goals right there. I might have to add that to our outdoor decorations next year. And big old leg.
Yeah. As a homeowner, you can throw that out there now.
Well, I don't know. I know you asked Rob this, and if Prep and Landing is very top 5-ish movie. I know he's big on it. That's Prep and Landing is top 5 movie, especially cartoonish.
I haven't seen it, so I apparently both you guys are saying it's good. I might have to do that before the holidays.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Well, to prevent anybody else from listening to our Christmas talk anymore, thank you for listening to our podcast, All Beef No Filler, presented by Prep Baseball. Happy to sit around and talk about the 27 rankings with you. Join us next week as we discuss the 2028 rankings. Thanks. Merry Christmas.